Captain Lee Dae-ho stood on the observation deck of Earth Station Alpha, watching the alien ships approach through the darkness of space. The massive vessels moved with perfect grace, their hulls gleaming silver under the distant light of the sun. He had seen the videos and read the reports, but nothing prepared him for the actual sight of them. 3 days ago, the ships had appeared at the edge of the solar system. They sent a message in perfect Korean, English, Chinese, and dozens of other Earth languages. The message was simple. Greetings. We come in peace to welcome Earth into the galactic community. Dr. Park So-ra walked up beside him, carrying a tablet filled with notes. She had been working without sleep since the aliens made contact. As Earth's lead xenobiologist, she would be one of the first humans to actually meet them face to face. The translation programs are working perfectly, she said, looking tired but excited. They seem to know everything about our languages already. How is that possible? Lee Dae-ho shrugged. Maybe they have been watching us for a long time, or maybe their computers are just that good. Their technology is incredible, So-ra continued. The materials their ships are made from don't appear on any of our charts, and the energy readings we are getting suggest power sources far beyond anything we have ever imagined. Down in the main conference room, Admiral Kim Tae-sung was preparing for the meeting. As the Supreme Commander of Earth's Defense Force, he would lead the human delegation. The room had been decorated with flags from every nation on Earth. Translators and diplomats from around the world sat at a large round table, all nervous and excited. The alien ships docked with the station exactly on schedule. The airlock opened with a soft hiss, and the first aliens stepped through. Ambassador Sethera was tall and thin, with green scales that shimmered under the station's lights. Her head was shaped like a snake's, but her eyes showed clear intelligence. She moved with smooth, careful steps. Behind her came Hive Speaker Cluckeths, who looked like a giant insect walking on 2 legs. Its compound eyes reflected the light like jewels. "Greetings, people of Earth," Sethera said. Her voice came through a small device on her chest that translated her words perfectly. "I am Ambassador Sethera of the Vorthak Republic. This is Hive Speaker Kalkeths of the Chaitani Collective. We represent the Galactic Confederation." Admiral Kim stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Welcome to Earth Station Alpha. I am Admiral Kim Tae-sung, representing the United Governments of Earth. We are honored by your visit." The aliens looked around the room with what seemed like gentle amusement. Sethera's eyes stopped on the various flags and decorations. "You still organize yourselves into separate territorial groups," she observed. "How interesting. Most species abandon such divisions long before they develop space travel." Dr. Park So-ra leaned forward. "How many species have you encountered?" "The Confederation includes 847 different species," Klekthis answered. Its voice sounded like clicking and buzzing, but the translator made it clear. "We have been exploring the galaxy for over 50,000 of your years." The humans in the room exchanged glances. 50,000 years was longer than recorded human history. "You must have incredible knowledge and technology," Captain Lee said. "We do," Sethera replied with what might have been a smile. "And we are here to share it with you. Earth shows great promise. Your species has achieved nuclear fusion and basic spaceflight. With proper guidance, you could become a valuable member of the galactic community." "Guidance?" Admiral Kim asked. "Of course," the ambassador explained. "Every species needs help when they first join the larger universe. We have standard programs to help new civilizations develop safely. Usually it takes about 500 of your years for a species to be ready for full membership." Lee Dae-ho felt a small flash of irritation at the condescending tone, but he kept his expression neutral. "What does this guidance involve?" "Educational exchanges, technology sharing at appropriate levels, cultural development programs," Sethera listed. "We have found that rapid technological advancement can be dangerous for young species. It is better to progress slowly and safely. During the formal dinner that followed, the aliens seemed genuinely curious about human culture. They asked about art, music, and literature. They were particularly interested in human history. Your species has had an unusual number of conflicts, Klakths observed while examining a historical timeline the humans had prepared. Most pre-spaceflight species have perhaps a dozen major wars in their recorded history. You have had thousands. Humans are competitive by nature, Lee Dae-ho explained. We have always had different ideas about how society should work. Sometimes, those differences led to conflicts. But surely you have grown beyond such primitive behavior, Sethara said. War is wasteful and inefficient. Civilized species settle their differences through discussion and compromise. We try to, Dr. Park said, but humans are passionate about their beliefs. Sometimes passion leads to conflict. The aliens exchanged a look that the humans could not interpret. Later that evening, after the formal meetings ended, Lee Dae-ho found himself alone with Dr. Park in her laboratory. She was already studying samples of alien materials they had been given as gifts. "What do you think of them?" he asked. "They are clearly advanced beyond anything we can imagine," she said, holding up a piece of metal that seemed to glow with its own light. "This material is stronger than diamond but weighs almost nothing, and their computers can translate any language instantly." "That is not what I meant," Lee said. "What do you think of their attitude toward us?" Sora paused in her work. "They see us as children," she said quietly. "Intelligent children, but children nonetheless. They think we need to be taught how to behave properly." 500 years of guidance, Lee muttered. "That is a long time to be treated like students." "Maybe. We are students," Sora said. "Look at what they have accomplished. Peace for 50,000 years, a confederation of hundreds of species working together. Maybe they know something we do not." Lee Dae-ho looked out the window at the alien ships. They hung in space like sleeping. Giants, beautiful and intimidating. Somewhere in those ships, the aliens were probably discussing humanity's future. They would decide how fast humans could develop, what technologies they could have, and how they should organize their society. For the first time since the aliens arrived, he wondered if humanity really wanted to be part of their peaceful galactic community. The aliens seemed nice enough, but there was something about being managed and guided that bothered him. Down in the conference room, Admiral Kim was having similar thoughts as he read the preliminary agreements the aliens had presented. The documents were full of terms like supervised development and approved technology transfers. It all sounded very reasonable and very safe. It also sounded like humanity would be giving up the right to make its own choices. But the aliens had such incredible technology, and they offered peace and prosperity beyond imagination. Surely it was worth some temporary loss of independence to gain access to the wonders of the galaxy. As the first day of contact ended, neither the humans nor the aliens realized how badly they had misunderstood each other. The aliens saw a primitive, but promising species that needed careful guidance. The humans saw advanced beings offering help and friendship. Neither side understood that they had completely different ideas about what civilization meant. 6 months had passed since first contact, and the cultural exchange program was in full swing. Commander Choi Han-sol stood in the main briefing room of Earth Station Alpha, preparing to give another presentation to the visiting alien scholars. Today's topic was human military history, something the aliens found endlessly fascinating in a disturbing way. The room was filled with representatives from a dozen different alien species. Ambassador Sethara sat in the front row, her serpentine, head tilted with interest. Beside her, Hive speaker Kulkaths made soft clicking sounds that his translator interpreted as thoughtful humming. Behind them sat scholars from the Malari Unity, the Turkan Hegemony, and other civilizations whose names Choi was still learning to pronounce. Today we will discuss the period humans call World War II, Choi began, activating the holographic display. A map of Earth appeared, showing the continents as they were in 1939. This conflict lasted 6 years and involved most of the inhabited regions of our planet. Dr. Vestan, a tall, blue-skinned scholar from the Turkan hegemony, raised one of her 4 arms. Commander Choi, we have reviewed your materials from last week. We are still confused about the concept of total war. Could you explain this again? Choi nodded. He had been expecting this question. Total war means that entire populations become part of the war effort. Not just soldiers, but civilians too. Factories that made cars start making tanks. Farms that grew food start growing crops for military rations. Scientists stop working on peaceful projects and start designing weapons. The aliens exchanged worried glances. Sethara spoke up, her voice careful and measured. But surely the civilian population was protected from the actual fighting? Not exactly, Choi said, pulling up images of bombed cities. Both sides targeted civilian areas. The idea was to destroy the enemy's ability to continue fighting by attacking their cities, their factories, and their people's will to resist. A collective gasp came from the alien delegation. Cluckathis stood up abruptly, his compound eyes reflecting the horrifying images on the screen. "You deliberately attacked non-combatants?" the Hive speaker demanded. "Your own species?" "The enemy was our own species too," Choi replied quietly. "In total war, everyone becomes a target if they support the enemy war effort." Meanwhile, in another part of the station, engineer Kang Mi-young was having the most productive 6 months of her career. The aliens had been generous with their technology samples, allowing human scientists to study basic alien materials and devices. What they did not know was how quickly humans could reverse engineer complex systems. Kang stood in her laboratory, looking at her latest creation. It looked like a simple metal box, but inside was a fusion reactor based on alien power, cell designs. The aliens had given them a broken communicator to study, thinking humans might learn something about basic energy storage. Instead, Kang had figured out how to build a power source 50 times more efficient than anything humanity had ever created. "The power output is incredible," her assistant, Dr. Bae Soo-jin, said, reading the displays. "And the design is so simple, once you understand the principle." "Why did the aliens not think we could figure this out?" "Because they think we are still primitive," Kang replied, making notes on her tablet. "They assume we need centuries to understand concepts that our best minds can grasp in weeks." In the diplomatic wing, Yoon Jae-wook was struggling with a different kind of problem. As Earth's chief diplomatic liaison, he spent most of his time trying to smooth over the increasingly awkward cultural exchanges. The aliens were becoming more and more uncomfortable with what they learned about humanity. "Ambassador Sethara," he said, sitting across from the Vorthak representative in her private quarters. "I wanted to discuss some of the concerns your delegation has raised." The aliens' scales shifted color slightly. Something Yoon had learned indicated stress. "Diplomat Yoon, we are troubled by many things we have discovered about your species. This concept of genocide that appeared in Commander Choi's presentation yesterday, for example." Yoon winced. "That was one of humanity's darkest periods. We learned from those mistakes. But the capacity for such actions still exists within your species," Sethara pressed. "The systematic elimination of entire populations based on arbitrary categories. We have studied the histories of 847 species. None of them developed such comprehensive methods of destruction. We also developed comprehensive methods of protection and justice," Yoon countered. "Our international laws, our human rights declarations, our peacekeeping organizations." "Yes, but these came after the development of the destructive methods," the ambassador pointed out. "Most species develop cooperation before they develop advanced warfare. Humans seem to have done the opposite." Back in the military section, Admiral Kim Tae-sung was reading reports that made him increasingly uneasy. The aliens had been asking detailed questions about human military doctrine, weapons development, and strategic thinking. They claimed it was for academic research, but Kim suspected they were conducting some kind of threat assessment. His suspicions were confirmed when Captain Song Yu-jin entered his office with a classified report. "Sir, we have been monitoring alien communications," Song said, placing a sealed folder on Kim's desk. "Our intelligence people have been working on their encryption for months. We can only decode fragments, but what we have found is concerning." Kim opened the folder and read the translated message fragments. Words like containment protocols, threat assessment, and protective measures appeared throughout the intercepted communications. "They are not just studying us," Kim said grimly. "They are evaluating whether we are dangerous." "There is more, sir," Song continued. "We have detected long-range scanning of Earth's military installations. They are mapping our defense capabilities. On the alien command ship, emergency meetings were being held every day. The initial assessment of humanity as a primitive but harmless species was being rapidly revised. The humans have documented over 15,000 separate conflicts in their recorded history," Dr. Zeth Mora, the Confederation's chief xenopsychologist, reported to the assembled delegates. "Most species have fewer than 50 conflicts in their entire pre-space flight period. What is more disturbing," added military analyst Quindar, "is the sophistication of their strategic thinking. They have developed concepts like acceptable losses, strategic depth, and force multiplication that our own military theorists took millennia to understand." Ambassador Sethara looked at the data displays showing human weapons development over time. "The rate of advancement is unprecedented. In less than a century, they went from chemical explosives to fusion weapons. They developed delivery systems that can strike any target on their planet within minutes. And now they are reverse engineering our technology," Hive Speaker Clockthus added grimly. "Our technical observers report that human scientists are making connections we did not expect them to understand for decades." The most alarming report came from the cultural analysis team. "Humans do not just fight wars," the team leader explained. "They study war. They have entire academic disciplines devoted to understanding conflict. They write books analyzing every aspect of historical battles. They create simulations to test new strategies. They have turned warfare into a science," Sethara realized with growing horror. The final straw came during a routine cultural presentation about human entertainment. The aliens were shown examples of human movies, books, and games. What shocked them was not the violence itself, but the complexity and realism of the strategic thinking involved. "This is what they call entertainment?" Dr. Velathan asked, watching scenes from a war movie. "These tactical maneuvers, these strategic deceptions, this psychological warfare? They enjoy thinking about such things?" Dr. Park Sora, who was giving the presentation, nodded enthusiastically. "Humans love complex strategic challenges. Our most popular games involve military tactics, resource management, and competitive thinking." The aliens left that presentation in stunned silence. That evening, the Galactic Confederation held its first emergency session in 3,000 years. The topic was simple: what to do about humanity. "We have never encountered a species like this," Sethara reported to the full council via quantum communication. "They are not evil or malicious, but they have developed military thinking to a degree that we find deeply disturbing." "Recommendation?" asked High Coordinator Zephron from the Confederation capital. "We need time to study this situation more carefully," the ambassador replied. "But preliminary assessment suggests that standard uplift protocols may not be appropriate for this species." For the first time in 50,000 years, the Galactic Confederation was genuinely worried about a pre-space flight civilization. Humanity had not yet left their solar system, but they were already changing how the galaxy thought about war and peace. The aliens had expected to find another species to guide gently into civilization. Instead, they had found something they had never encountered before: a species that had made warfare into an art form. The test began 3 weeks later, though the humans did not know it was a test. The Galactic Confederation had decided they needed to see how humanity would react to a real crisis. They chose the Zephyrian Mining Collective Rebellion as their experiment. General Bai Hyun-woo was in his office at Earth Defense Force headquarters when the news broke. The communication came directly from Ambassador Seth Ara, who seemed genuinely distressed about the situation. General Bai, we regret to inform you that one of our member species has begun an armed rebellion, the alien ambassador explained through the quantum communication link. The Zephyrian Mining Collective has declared independence from Confederation authority. They have seized control of 3 star systems and are threatening to attack civilian targets. Dr. Lim Sang-ho, who had been working closely with the alien technology samples, looked up from his research station. How can we help? The Confederation has never faced such a situation, Sethara continued. Our standard protocols involve diplomatic negotiation and economic sanctions. We were hoping that humanity, with your extensive experience in conflict resolution, might offer some guidance. Bai and Lim exchanged glances. This was the first time the aliens had asked humans for advice about anything. We would be honored to help, Bai replied. Could you provide us with detailed information about the situation? Within hours, massive data files began arriving from the Confederation. Star charts, population statistics, economic data, military, capabilities of both sides, historical grievances, and cultural analysis reports. The aliens had provided everything they could think of. What happened next caught the Confederation completely off guard. Captain Song Yu-jin was the first to spot the real picture. She had been promoted to head of strategic analysis after her work decoding alien communications. Now she stood in the main operations center, surrounded by dozens of holographic displays showing the Zephyrian systems. This is not a rebellion, she announced to the assembled staff. This is a resource grab disguised as a political movement. General Bai moved to stand beside her. Explain! Song highlighted several key points on the tactical display. Look at what the Zephyrians have actually seized. 3 systems, but not just any 3 systems. These contain 60% of the rare metal deposits in their local sector. They are not fighting for independence. They are fighting for economic control. And they are not threatening civilian targets randomly, added Dr. Lim, who had been studying the technical specifications of Zephyrian weapons. Every target they have mentioned is either a transportation hub or a processing facility. They want to control the entire supply chain. Within 72 hours, the human analysis team had produced something the Galactic Confederation had never seen before. A complete strategic breakdown of the conflict, including 17 different ways to end it quickly. Ambassador Seth Ara arrived at Earth Station Alpha expecting to receive the usual diplomatic recommendations. All previous species had offered to serve as neutral mediators or to host peace negotiations. She was completely unprepared for what the humans presented. Ambassador, General Bai began, activating a 3-dimensional tactical display. We have completed our analysis of the Zephyrian situation. We have identified 3 primary strategic options for the Confederation. The display showed the Zephyrian systems in detail with various tactical elements highlighted in different colors. Option 1, Economic Warfare, Captain Song explained, highlighting shipping routes in red. Cut off all trade routes to the Zephyrian systems. They are dependent on food imports from 7 different worlds. A complete blockade would force them to negotiate within 6 months. Sethara stared at the display. You want to starve them into submission. Option 2. Targeted infrastructure strikes, Dr. Lim continued, ignoring the ambassador's shocked tone. The Zephyrians are dependent on 3 main power generation facilities. Disable these facilities, and their military capabilities drop by 80% within weeks. You want to attack civilian infrastructure? The alien ambassador gasped. Option A. 3. Psychological operations, General Bai concluded. We have identified the 7 key leaders of the rebellion. Each has specific personal vulnerabilities. A coordinated campaign targeting their individual weaknesses could fracture their leadership structure within days. The room fell silent. Sethara looked from one human to another, her scales shifting to deep purple, a color the humans had learned indicated extreme distress. "These are not peace negotiations," she whispered. "These are battle plans." "Well, yes," Song replied, seeming confused by the ambassador's reaction. "You said the Confederation has never faced such a situation. We assumed you wanted practical solutions." "But where are the diplomatic options?" Sethara demanded. "The compromise proposals? The mediation frameworks?" The humans exchanged puzzled looks. "The Zephyrians have already rejected diplomatic solutions," Bay explained patiently. "They have declared independence and seized territory by force. Diplomacy only works when both sides want to negotiate." "Then how do you normally resolve conflicts?" the ambassador asked, though she was beginning to fear the answer. "You win them," Song said simply. "The goal is to remove the enemy's ability to continue fighting. Once they cannot fight anymore, they have to accept your terms." Meanwhile, in another part of the station, engineer Kang Mi-young was putting the finishing touches on her latest project. The aliens had provided more technology samples as gifts, including what they thought was a simple navigation computer. Kang had turned it into something much more interesting. "The targeting algorithms are incredible," her assistant Dr. Bei Su-jin observed, watching the test results. "Accuracy within centimeters at ranges of thousands of kilometers." "The aliens probably use this for asteroid mining or scientific research," Kang mused. "But the applications for precision strikes are obvious." "Should we tell them what we have discovered?" Su-jin asked. Kang considered this. The ambassador specifically said they wanted to see human problem-solving approaches. "I think this qualifies." Back in the conference room, the situation was getting worse. Ambassador Sethara had called for additional Confederation observers to witness the human presentation. Representatives from a dozen species now sat in stunned silence as the humans continued their strategic analysis. "We have also prepared contingency plans," General Bay announced, activating another display. "These cover scenarios where the conflict spreads to neighboring systems or where additional factions join the rebellion." The new display showed battle plans for conflicts involving dozens of star systems and millions of combatants. Every detail had been considered: supply lines, communications networks, civilian evacuation routes, and economic disruption patterns. "How long did it take you to prepare all of this?" asked Dr. Velethan, her 4 arms trembling slightly. "About 3 days for the basic analysis," Captain Song replied. "But we have been refining the details since then. War planning is complex work." "War planning?" Hive speaker Kalekuths stood up abruptly. "We asked for advice on resolving a crisis, not for plans to wage war." "Are they not the same thing?" Dr. Lim asked genuinely. "In our experience, the best way to end a conflict quickly is to have an overwhelming strategic advantage. The enemy surrenders when they realize they cannot win." "But what about the casualties?" Sethara demanded. "What about the suffering? What about the damage to civilized society?" General Bay looked thoughtful. "Our projections show minimal casualties with these approaches, much lower than a prolonged conflict would produce. As for civilized society, we assumed that was what you were trying to protect from the Zephyrian threat." The alien observers were beginning to understand that they had made a terrible mistake. They had expected humans to think like other civilized species. Instead, they had discovered that humans thought about conflict in ways that were completely alien to the rest of the galaxy. "In all our studies of warfare," Sethara said carefully, "we have never encountered strategic thinking this comprehensive. Most species stumble into conflicts and try to end them as quickly as possible. You seem to have studied every aspect of warfare as if it were a science." "It is a science," Song replied, seeming surprised by the comment. Humans have been studying warfare for thousands of years. We have entire universities devoted to strategic studies. Every major conflict in our history has been analyzed and documented. But why? Calictus asked desperately. Why would a species spend so much effort learning how to destroy things? The humans looked at each other, unsure how to answer such an obvious question. Because if you do not know how to win wars, General Bay finally said, you lose them. And losing means your enemies get to decide how your people live, or whether they live at all. The meeting ended in chaos. Half the alien observers left immediately to file emergency reports with their governments. The other half stayed to ask increasingly disturbing questions about human military capabilities. Ambassador Sethara remained after everyone else had left, staring at the tactical displays that still showed the detailed battle plans humans had created in just 3 days. We thought we were testing you, she said quietly to General Bay. We thought we were seeing how a young species would react to galactic conflict. The emergency session of the Galactic Confederation Council lasted 18 hours. Representatives from 847 species debated through the night, arguing about something they had never faced before: what to do about a potentially dangerous pre-space flight, civilization. High Coordinator Zephron called for order as the discussions grew more heated. The evidence is clear, she announced to the assembled delegates. Humanity represents an unprecedented threat to galactic stability. We must implement protective containment measures immediately. Admiral Shin Dong-ho received the news 3 days later, though it came disguised as something else entirely. Ambassador Sethara delivered the message personally, her scales showing colors that the humans had learned meant deep embarrassment. Admiral Shin, the Confederation Council has voted to establish a permanent monitoring presence in your solar system, she explained, her voice carefully neutral. This will help facilitate our ongoing cultural exchange programs and ensure that humanity receives proper guidance as you develop. Shin studied the deployment specifications that accompanied the announcement. 37 ships, including several that were classified as deep space monitors but had energy signatures consistent with military vessels. The fleet would be positioned at strategic points throughout the solar system. This looks like a blockade, Shin observed quietly. Not at all, Sethara replied quickly. This is a standard protective deployment. We use similar arrangements for all developing species. How many of those other species had achieved spaceflight before you arrived? Dr. Oh Chang-min asked from his position at the science station. The ambassador hesitated. That is not relevant to the current situation. Colonel Nam Eun-ji leaned forward. Ambassador, with respect, we have been monitoring your communications for months. We know this is not standard procedure. Sethara's scales shifted to surprised. Orange. You have been intercepting our transmissions? We have been learning from everything you have taught us, Shin replied calmly, including your encryption methods, your command protocols, and your strategic doctrine. What the ambassador did not know was that humanity had been preparing for this moment since the first awkward cultural exchanges 6 months ago. The humans had quickly realized that their alien visitors were not quite as friendly as they pretended to be. Admiral, Colonel Nam said, activating a secure communication channel. I think it is time to show our guests what we have been working on. Throughout the solar system, objects that the aliens had classified as research stations and communication arrays suddenly revealed their true nature. What appeared to be one space station near Earth was actually the command center for a network of 47 armed installations hidden throughout the asteroid belt, on lunar bases, and in deep space. The humans had been building a secret fleet, using improved versions of their own technology, enhanced with principles learned from alien examples. Dr. Oh Chang-min's research teams had made breakthroughs in fusion power, magnetic field manipulation, and material science that the aliens had not expected for decades. Impossible, Sethara whispered. staring at the tactical display that showed the true extent of human space infrastructure. Our sensors detected none of this. We learned stealth technology from your own reconnaissance drones, Colonel Nam explained. We simply applied the principles in ways you did not expect. Admiral Shin activated the main communication system, broadcasting on all frequencies that the alien monitoring fleet could receive. Confederation vessels, this is Admiral Shin Dong-ho of the Earth Defense Force. You are ordered to withdraw from the Sol system immediately. The response came from Fleet Commander Thexeral, leader of the Alien Monitoring Force. Admiral Shin, you are mistaken about our intentions. We are here to help humanity develop safely. Your help is no longer required, Shin replied. You have 24 hours to begin withdrawal procedures. And if we refuse, Thexeral asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer, then we will demonstrate the practical applications of human strategic thinking, Colonel Nam said, taking over the communication. We assume you have studied our military history by now. You know that humans do not make empty threats. The first battle began exactly 24 hours later when the alien fleet ignored the withdrawal deadline. It lasted 17 minutes. The Confederation ships were more advanced than anything humanity had ever seen. Their hulls were made of materials that could withstand direct nuclear strikes. Their weapons could vaporize asteroids from thousands of kilometers away. Their shields could deflect energy beams that would destroy cities. None of that mattered. The humans did not fight the way the aliens expected. Instead of engaging in direct combat, human ships used tactics that the peaceful galaxy had never seen before. 3 human vessels approached the alien flagship on what appeared to be a direct attack run. The Confederation ship's shields easily deflected their weapons fire. But the attack was not meant to damage the ship. It was meant to force the alien vessel into a specific position. As the flagship moved to avoid the attacking ships, it passed through what seemed like empty space. Hidden there was a human ship that had been powered down and drifting for hours, invisible to alien sensors. At point-blank range, it activated its engines and rammed directly into the alien ship's hull. The collision destroyed both vessels instantly, but the explosion disabled the flagship's escort ships. While the aliens were recovering from the shock of seeing enemies willing to sacrifice themselves to achieve tactical goals, human ships emerged from hiding places throughout the solar system. They are using their own ships as weapons. Fleet Commander Thexeral reported in horror to Confederation headquarters. They deliberately destroyed their own vessel to damage ours. Retreat to safe distance, came the immediate response. Request immediate reinforcements. But there was no safe distance. Human ships appeared wherever the aliens tried to regroup. They used asteroids as cover, disabled ships as decoys, and coordinated attacks from multiple vectors simultaneously. Every time the aliens thought they understood human tactics, the humans revealed new strategies. The breakthrough came when engineer Kang Mi-young's latest creation was deployed. She had been working with the alien navigation computer for months, not to improve human navigation, but to understand alien command and control systems. All alien ships use the same basic computer architecture, she had explained to Admiral Shin. If we can disrupt their command network, their entire fleet becomes helpless. The weapon was simple in concept, but devastating in effect. A single human ship broadcast a signal based on alien computer protocols, but modified with human improvements. Instead of carrying navigation data, it carried a virus that shut down alien ship systems. 12 Confederation vessels lost all power simultaneously. They drifted helplessly while human ships surrounded them. This is Admiral Shin to all Confederation vessels, came the broadcast. Surrender immediately, or we will demonstrate why humans have never lost a war when they had technological parity with their enemies. We surrender, Fleet Commander Thexeral replied immediately. He had studied enough human history to know that continuing the fight would only make things worse. The aftermath of the battle sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. The Confederation had not fought a real war in thousands of years. Their ships were designed for exploration and police actions against primitive civilizations. They had no experience with enemies who treated warfare as an art form. How did they advance so quickly? High Coordinator Zephron demanded during the emergency council session that followed. 6 months ago, they had chemical rockets. Now they have destroyed an entire Confederation fleet. They did not just copy our technology, reported Chief Science Advisor Quinn Dar. They improved it. Their fusion reactors are more efficient than ours. Their stealth systems are more advanced than ours. Their tactical coordination is beyond anything we have seen. But they are a pre-spaceflight civilization, insisted Counselor Vethana. How is this possible? Ambassador Seth Ara, who had witnessed the battle from Earth Station Alpha, provided the answer that changed everything. They are not pre-spaceflight anymore, she said quietly. And I do not think they ever really were. We assumed that because they had not left their solar system, they were not capable of spaceflight. But they were not exploring space because they saw no reason to. They were fortifying it. The truth was becoming clear to the Confederation leadership. Humanity had not been developing space technology for exploration or commerce. They had been developing it for war. Everything they had built was designed with conflict in mind. What do they want? Zephron asked desperately. The answer came in a transmission from Admiral Shin, broadcast to every Confederation world simultaneously. People of the galaxy, he began. Earth has no desire for conquest or domination. We want only to be left alone to develop as we choose. Any attempt to interfere with human sovereignty will be met with appropriate force. However, he continued, we recognize that the galaxy faces challenges that require cooperation. Earth is prepared to offer our assistance in matters of galactic security, in exchange for recognition as an independent and equal member of the galactic community. 3 weeks after the battle in Sol System, Fleet Admiral Ryu Seok-jin stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned EDF Incheon, humanity's first true starship. Built using alien technology principles but with distinctly human improvements, it represented everything the Galactic Confederation had feared about human engineering capabilities. The ship was not just advanced, it was revolutionary. Human engineers had taken alien designs and made them better in ways the original creators had never imagined. Where alien ships prioritized comfort and efficiency, human ships prioritized survivability and tactical flexibility. Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from the Confederation Council, reported Communications Officer Park Ji-hai. High Coordinator Zephron is requesting immediate negotiations. Ryu smiled grimly. Tell her we will be happy to discuss terms, but the negotiations will be held at Earth Station Alpha, and they will be conducted according to human diplomatic protocols. The message was clear. The Confederation was no longer setting the terms of engagement. Director An Minseo had been appointed as Earth's chief diplomatic representative, a role that was part ambassador and part strategic negotiator. She understood that humanity's position in the galaxy had changed forever, and that the old rules no longer applied. The Confederation is in chaos, she reported to the Earth Defense Council. Half their member species are demanding immediate military action against humanity. The other half are trying to negotiate mutual defense agreements with us. And the Confederation leadership? Asked General Jo Kyung-soo, who had been promoted to head of Galactic Strategic Planning. They are terrified, An replied simply. For 50,000 years, they have maintained peace through technological superiority and economic control. Now, they face a species that can match their technology and has no interest in their economic systems. The first sign of how much things had changed came when the Zephyrian Mining Collective suddenly announced their surrender to Confederation forces. The rebellion that had lasted 6 months ended overnight when news of the human victory spread through the galaxy. Fascinating, observed Dr. Lim Sang-ho, reading the intelligence reports. The Zephyrians gave up as soon as they learned that humans had defeated a Confederation fleet. They realized that if their rebellion succeeded, they might face human intervention next. Fear can be a powerful diplomatic tool, General Joe agreed. Much more efficient than economic sanctions or lengthy negotiations. But the real changes began when alien species started approaching humanity directly, bypassing the Confederation entirely. The first to arrive was a delegation from the Malari Unity, led by Chancellor Vestan. "Honorable humans," the Chancellor began, his blue skin shifting to respectful purple. "The Malari Unity wishes to establish direct diplomatic relations with Earth. We have studied your strategic methods and believe there is much we can learn from each other." Director On received him in the newly constructed diplomatic center on Earth Station Alpha. The facility had been designed with human principles in mind: efficiency, security, and clear lines of authority. "What kind of relationship are you proposing?" On asked. "Mutual defense and strategic cooperation," Vestan replied. "The Malari system's border regions that have become unstable since news of your victory spread. We need allies who understand how to maintain security." It was exactly what human strategists had predicted. The galaxy's long peace had been maintained by the Confederation's overwhelming power. Now that humans had proven that power could be challenged, other conflicts were emerging throughout galactic space. "We would be willing to discuss such an arrangement," On said carefully. "But any agreement would need to recognize human sovereignty and our right to independent action." "Of course," the Chancellor agreed quickly. "We have no desire to repeat the Confederation's mistakes." Similar negotiations began with dozens of other species. Some wanted military advice, others wanted access to human technology. All of them wanted to be on humanity's good side if more conflicts emerged. The Confederation Council met in emergency session for the 12th time in a month. High Coordinator Zephyron looked exhausted as she addressed the assembled delegates. "The situation is deteriorating rapidly," she announced. 17 species have withdrawn from Confederation authority in the past week. 23 others have demanded renegotiation of their membership agreements. The humans have not even left their solar system, and our entire governmental structure is collapsing. "We must take military action," demanded War Coordinator Threndal, one of the few Confederation officials with actual military experience. "Every day we delay makes humanity stronger and our position weaker." "With what military?" Zephyron asked bitterly. "Our fleet was designed for police actions and exploration. The humans destroyed 37 ships without losing a single vessel. In direct combat, they used tactics we do not understand against technology we thought was superior. Then we adapt," Threndal insisted. "We study their methods and build appropriate countermeasures." "You still do not understand," interrupted Ambassador Seth Ara, who had returned from Earth with her full report. "This is not about technology or tactics. This is about fundamental differences in how we think about conflict." She activated a holographic display showing comparative strategic analyses. "We studied 17 different alien approaches to the Zephyrian crisis. Every species recommended diplomatic solutions, economic pressure, or gradual escalation. Only humans immediately created comprehensive battle plans designed to achieve total victory in minimum time. So they think differently about war," Threndal said dismissively. "We can learn to think the same way." "Can we?" Sethera challenged. "Can you convince 847 peaceful species to abandon 50,000 years of civilization and become warriors? Can you persuade populations that have never known real conflict to accept the casualties and destruction that human-style warfare requires?" The silence that followed answered her question. Meanwhile, General Joe was implementing the new reality of galactic politics. His Galactic Strategic Planning Division had grown from a small staff to a massive organization responsible for analyzing threats throughout known space. "The hegemony wars have resumed," reported Colonel Nam Yunji, highlighting a section of the galactic map. "The Turkan hegemony is moving against the Rigelian Free States. Both sides have requested human military advisors." "And the Confederation's response?" Joe asked. They have offered to mediate, Nam replied with a slight smile. Both sides have rejected the offer and requested human mediation instead. It was happening everywhere. Species that had relied on Confederation protection for millennia were now turning to humanity for security. The galaxy was learning that in a universe where conflicts could emerge at any time, it was better to have allies who knew how to win wars than allies who knew how to avoid them. The transformation was completed 6 months later when Director An Min-seo addressed the rebuilt Galactic Council. The meeting was held on Earth Station Alpha in a chamber designed according to human specifications. Representatives from over 400 species attended, while the old Confederation watched from the sidelines. Fellow beings of the galaxy, An began, humanity is honored to accept the responsibility of galactic security coordination. We understand that this responsibility comes with great challenges and greater opportunities. The speech was carefully crafted to sound cooperative and peaceful. But everyone present understood the real message. Humanity was now the dominant power in the galaxy, and they were offering to share that power with those willing to accept human leadership. Our approach to galactic security will be based on practical principles, An continued. Clear agreements, reliable enforcement, and swift response to threats. We believe that lasting peace comes from strength, not from weakness disguised as virtue. Ambassador Sethara, representing what remained of the old Confederation, listened with growing understanding. The aliens had thought they were uplifting, a primitive species. Instead, they had awakened something that would reshape the entire galaxy. We offer our guidance and protection to all species willing to accept the responsibilities that come with genuine security, An concluded. The age of passive peace maintained through ignorance of warfare has ended. The age of active peace maintained through understanding of conflict has begun. The applause that followed was polite but subdued. Everyone present understood that they were witnessing the end of one galactic era and the beginning of another. In her final report to the dissolved Confederation Council, Ambassador Sethara wrote a single paragraph that summarized everything they had learned. Recommendation: full integration of human strategic doctrine into all future galactic security planning. Note: update first contact protocols to include comprehensive psychological warfare assessment for all species encounters. Conclusion: we attempted to teach humans how to be civilized. Instead, they taught us that we had forgotten what civilization actually requires. They never expected we were so unprepared for what they called peace through strength. We never expected humans were capable of this much devastation, but more importantly, we never expected they would be capable of using that devastation to create a more stable galaxy.